Awesome. Hello. That was fantastic keynote from Kiran as well as from Sumedh. Obviously, Kiran talked about needing to be ahead of the attackers, while Sumedh talked about changing the mind from thinking about attack surface management to risk surface management. And obviously, Mayuresh gave an amazing demo of world's first risk operation center, which is Qualys ETM, obviously the holy grail of risk surface management. But if you actually look into that, like what we are trying to cover as a part of this session is how Qualys platforms been relentlessly creating the building blocks, as well as some of the innovations, the exciting innovations, what we are bringing to the platform to get you and your risk operations center ready from day one easily. This is going to have like a lot of demos, like a lot of research-based numbers, etc. I would recommend the only app should work on your phone right now is the camera. All right, the first thing first, let's keep the matter straight, right? Your risk operations center castle is dependent on how well and how accurate your detections are. So you can do all the prioritization as you want, the CRQs, providing the remediation plans, etc. This is all based on your detections. And the vulnerability detection is the #1 attack vector. Not because I'm from Qualys, I'm saying that. This is directly from the DBI report, 2025, so latest report. Not phishing, and soon going to take over the credential abuse. So there is 180% increase in the attack vectors based on the vulnerabilities. And this is where Qualys has been working with you for the last 25 years. Anytime, any application, any software, any technology comes in your environment, your VMDR is able to detect that from various attack vectors, from remote exploitation to their credential abuse, etc. But at the end of the day, we did some research, we dug into some numbers, and we are just excited to tell you, your VMDR has the most comprehensive, accurate, and the fastest detections available in the industry. This is more than any other solution out there, whether they're doing it for cloud, container, or whatever it is. Though a lot of vendors have been trying to create detection, which are low priority detection just to increase the numbers. So that's one particular part. Just wanted to get that clear. But at the end of the day, you're not doing vulnerability detection just to increase the count of detection. We looked at last year's CISA exploitable catalog of vulnerabilities, which is also followed by NCSC. If you see to it, across all this catalog, 22% of those vulnerabilities are applicable to your edge devices. And across all these vulnerabilities, 70% do not really require attacker to be on your endpoint or to be on that local system for its exploitation, while 78% of those can be detected locally. What do I mean by that? That means you need a multi-sensor approach to know every vulnerability and how your attacker could be exploiting that. Now, that's one of the reasons where Qualys always provided natively a mechanism to collect data across your environment using multiple sensors and the approach to collect this data and aggregate this data. What's the outcome we are talking about? This is the outcome. CISA and NCSC catalog is now one of the regulatory requirements. If you get breached using one of these vulnerabilities, there is no reason for you to actually provide any excuse. This is provided since a long time. And Qualys VMDR provides the widest coverage for this catalog of vulnerabilities for you to prioritize. Now, this is all about the vulnerabilities, etc. Right? The other part, which been highlighted, pretty interestingly, what if NVD, CVOR goes down, no funding? What happens? And this is the question, if you're using any other detection method you're going to use, you have to ask that vendor, what happens to your vulnerability management program? Qualys VMDR is optionally dependent on CV. All our detections are directly created by working with the vendors, with the CNAs, and we get this inventory in for all these CVIDs optionally from the NVD. Now, all of these threat feeds, what Mayuresh talked about, they all enrich and provide the intelligence on top of your detection. This is a big difference. So anytime anybody asks you, what's my backup plan? You don't need a backup plan with Qualys. You do need a backup plan with other CV scanners. But at the end of the day, like our good old friend talked about it, your problem in security is really not the security problem, right? That's what we think about. But Jeff talked about every security problem, the cyber risk problem at the end of the day is asset problem, it's config problem, device management, and either hardening or patching problem, right? And this is exactly what Qualys added the innovation for, is through our attack surface management capability integrated with your VMDR and now with your enterprise TruRisk management. What's been the outcome of the integrated attack surface management, right? This is where you are doing right now your vulnerability management. You think that we know all of this attack surface, you're providing IPs, you're having agents, and you're assessing its risk on them. Part of it, yeah, 15 to 20% of all of these assets are internet facing, increasing your attack surface. The data of 1/3 of additional customers which are using the external attack surface management on top of VMDR, what they are finding is they have 20 to 25% of assets. Remember another data point, 2/3 of the attacks are happening from the assets you do not know about. And these are these assets which are actually increasing your attack surface. What does it mean? It is not just a laundry list of IPs you didn't know about, but it's the ones which actually have presence and visibility to your attackers on Shodan. The ones which have risky port open. We have so many times we have seen the assets not known, have the RDP open port, you can actually ping some of these services. And now on top of that, if you have ransomware vulnerability, absolutely no use of your vulnerability program on known assets, because the attacker is going to go through the asset you didn't know about, they knew about. So that's the first step, to actually have the equal position with the attackers. The second part, right, like we all looked at the MTTR, which is a classic, very favorite term, mean time to remediation. Ever wondered why your MTTR is not coming down? The NCSE said, pretty bold statement, 5 days to patch risky vulnerabilities. They're not coming down, probably because of this. All of these are plotted as CISA, riskiest vulnerabilities out there. Obviously, they are growing. Every year, the number is growing. But look at the number due to which they're growing. 47% of those are due to end of life, end of service. So obviously, you're not getting a patch for it. Now you need to upgrade your system, update your systems for the same. This is becoming one of the biggest blockers of how do you now proactively identify and work with your IT team to have them upgrade this software based on the risk you're taking up. And now this third part of that is, this is one of my favorite research, what the teams did. We looked at around about 23 million of assets across EMEA and some of the other regions. And we looked at just server assets. And look at the number of software which are present on these servers, which are actually desktop-oriented software. 1/4 of these servers have technologies, applications, and software which are not even needed. We all talk about the burnout in the industry. I'm working 12 hours, 14 hours in cybersecurity. You know why? Because 1/4 of your time is going in assessing vulnerabilities and remediating them for software your businesses don't even care about. Your businesses don't even want them, actually. And that is resulting into average number of 14 odd vulnerabilities per server, which you can actually avoid. Do you want to see the magic list, the top list of all these bloatware software which are actually running on the servers? just alphabetical list, and look at the risky vulnerabilities posed on them. But really interesting part is many of them are already end of life, end of service. Look at our favorite Chrome. Obviously, your admin would say, I need Chrome. You really need to meet this person who actually installed Flash on server, need to really take them to back alley and have conversation. But they are the one who are burning you out. Now, the question became, like, how do you monitor all of this together? And that's where the cybersecurity asset management been absolutely game changer innovation. Help our customers for their VMDR assets detect additionally their external, internal attack surface with this risk context, what we are talking about. Do I know these assets? Do I actually know their attack surface in terms of the open ports, vulnerabilities, etc.? And the best part is already integrated. There's no new fancy siloed tool what I need to bring in and then download this data in Excel sheet and provide that for scanning. Already integrated with your risk operations center like Mayuresh talked about. So this is all about the detections and all about the assets. And this is favorite vulnerability, probably everybody heard about, like those who have SAP in their environment or those who know that they have SAP in their environment. This vulnerability which came out, our external attack surface management capability quickly found out the ones which were externally exposed, ones which were actually end of life, end of service, and the ones which had additional ransomware vulnerability. So you could be busy taking care of this 0-day. What about the other ransomware vulnerability which your attacker is going after? So this report is already available for our customers. So you have SAP, please absolutely look into that. If not, talk to your TAM or Matt or the other EMEA leaders. Awesome. So now we talked about the basic elements, obviously. So let's go over now. We all talked about since morning, like we have like a lot of detections. Obviously, the martini glass view, you must have seen at least 4-5 times, helps you prioritize the vulnerabilities, the detections, the findings which really matter, based on threat feed, business context, etc. Now, how do we do that, right? Like why TruRisk has been a revelation, like why it is one of the best method out there to help you prioritize your detections, cause it considers your EPSs, your all threat feeds, and actual mechanism the attackers have used to exploit somebody in your industry. So if anybody is working in the retail industry, I'm sure your management is asking, do we have any vulnerabilities which are risky, which are exploited in the retail industry? There's all context taken into account. Let's peel that onion, right? Like how it does this job of taking vulnerabilities one at a time. Just going to take a picture of this particular CV. Every one of you have deprioritized it. If you're not using Qualys, if you're using Wiz, CrowdStrike Defender, you have deprioritized it. This is marked as around about 6 on 10 by CVSS. This had 2 months of dark web trending pattern. This not just had a POC kit available, but it was weaponized. And it actually did not require necessarily somebody to be locally present. Additionally, this was present on the running processes or the services and had ransomware or the unknown threat actor attributed to this. That's why Qualys detection score had already prioritized that as 95 on 100. So this is the way what QDS is actually prioritizing, which is an important first step of TruRisk, prioritizing your findings. This is done the basic level at the most important level in a really good manner. The second part, this is getting now in ETM. Your risk operations center out of box has this capability built in, which would help any other detection coming into Qualys. You bring in Wiz, you bring in CrowdStrike, Defender, etc. Reprioritized almost 15 to 20% of those. You can take a picture of all of these vulnerabilities. They all got reprioritized. Look at the ones which you prioritized it higher, one from the bottom right corner. 9.8, obviously everybody needs to prioritize, had no trending, had no attribution. This is what is burning you. This got automatically deprioritized. The one which was medium got reprioritized to 95. This is the power of TruRisk, and the detection score, what Qualys is bringing in, is coming to ETM, is available as your risk operations center's main part. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, okay, you patched all vulnerability, now what? Right? Like, we have our friends of misconfigurations, obviously. At the end of the day, you can always give a reason that why some attacker was able to exploit the vulnerability, which was really critical, etc. You won't be able to provide an explanation if there was a misconfiguration on the system, which we couldn't take care of. This misconfiguration, what we are talking about, and Asma will cover in detail the part of web application-related vulnerabilities as well and the risk posed. But the answer typically I hear, yes, I run CIS benchmarks. Like for doing the misconfiguration. I'll show you interesting data point. This is the state across these benchmarks. There are 40% average failures from these CIS benchmark and misconfiguration. And look at the ones, typically all these are the applications present on internet-facing assets. Chrome, generally most exploitable. Every day or every Friday, it's fun to have a 0-day coming out and you guys working on weekend to patch it. Look into the ones, especially the plugins open. I was talking with somebody yesterday, making sure you're monitoring plugins. Well, just 40% of these controls mean, and they are mapped to these attacks. 70% of those misconfiguration are mapped to ransomware attack. Look at the one actually in the middle. What is it? It's RDP. This is top 5 controls, misconfiguration, what we are seeing. Now the question becomes like, how do you prioritize? There is no tool out there. There are at least methods, EPSS, CVSS, QDS, etc. That's why the QDS is extended for you to now also prioritize your misconfiguration, which you would be able to know from all of these misconfiguration if they are trending by the attackers, if they are related to RDP or the access, if they are actually correlated with any threat actor, and if they are part of, again, your audit readiness, if they are part of your CIS top 5 required controls, based on which now the misconfigurations get also reprioritized. So now all of this information, as you're prioritizing vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, etc., all of them come together and will provide you the ability to reprioritize your TruRisk. So first step we did is prioritizing your findings, right? Misconfiguration vulnerabilities based on QDS. Now it goes further to correlate the context of assets for you to now know how the TruRisk looks like. Take a simple asset, which could be finding or the TruRisk as low. All of those QDSs, the scores what we found out, they all considered as toxic combinations on the same asset. Additionally, we look at basically the context of the asset, whether it's internet-facing or not. And if it is internet-facing, additionally, if it is your business-critical asset or not. Remember what Sumit talked about, the risk which matters to your business. So you'll know if the asset is a part of the cluster, which is your revenue-generating app. If it's a part of your GDPR or DORA or related PCI sensitive data residing on them, based on which the TruRisk gets calculated. Additionally, look at the one at the bottom, the no EDR present, meaning no mitigation. This is also checked with the context of your cybersecurity asset management integrated with it, for you to know what the TruRisk looks like for that asset. And at the end of the day, we really actually animated the hell out of next slide. So you see like every data point which is coming in Qualys, everything, these are everything, all data points you are collecting today in Qualys. Same like vulnerabilities and misconfig, they are all now correlated with threat feeds beyond just vulnerabilities and the asset context for you to know their toxic combination and the true risk of that. But it is not just a laundry list, but actually the risk factors which are prioritized based on all of those. But at the end of the day, what do they mean, right? Like what's the outcome for the same. The outcome would look like this. You could be having hundreds of assets out there which are internet facing. The ones really matter are the ones which have vulnerabilities and open ports. The ones really matter in that is the ones which have exploitable vulnerability or ransomware one, and the one which have a combination of all. This one asset is how your attacker is driving the graph to reach. And we are looking into all these 100 ones. So this is the way TruRisk helps you prioritize based on the toxic combination. Same like that, you would be able to prioritize the toxic combination based on the misconfigurations or the vulnerabilities, port open, as well as the CISA kev and the one which have the maybe the RDP port open. So this is the outcome in which the TruRisk with toxic combination would be able to show you what really matters. And at the end of the day, what we were talking about is the outcome, right? The data matters. Okay, tell me, Shailesh, like, yeah, this is really good, this is pretty, but what did it do? So again, because I loved all of this data, we looked at all of these CVEs. All these are risky CVEs out there from CISA catalog of vulnerabilities. QDS, Qualys TruRisk based detection score, was already marked. Look at the score at which it was marked. This got marked 40 days before those detections got added in CISA kev catalog. And look at where the CVSS was for each of those. If you are using QDS-based TruRisk way of prioritization, like some of these customers are, you have prioritized these detection before CISA did. Remember what Kiran talked about, being ahead of the attackers. 60% of those, all of those have prioritized. This is one way to be actually ahead of the attackers. Prioritize the ones which would get prioritized by them tomorrow. All right, so the MITRE one, I'm not going to go through that right now, but across all of these findings come the view, if you want to actually see the attacker's perspective, the threat-based mechanism to know your risk, for each of those MITRE attack techniques, now all those findings come together in the same toxic manner what we talked about. For you to know if initial access related vector, what are my findings are? Are there internet-facing assets? Are there ports open? And ransomware vulnerabilities on the same. Before we do that, I'm going to go in the demo so we can actually quickly see how this toxic combination could be formed. We're excited to show, Mayuresh showed you the new UI. We did the first version of that a month back probably on all the parts. We're going to have exciting new version coming up with all those visualization coming in for you to actually visualize your vulnerabilities, their toxic combination, and what actually makes those risk factors for you to see the prioritized ones. So just going to probably check. One sec. I want to open the right demo. Right, could we shift to the demo? All right, so if you are an analyst, so first thing first, reducing the clutter. The visualization helps you as an analyst, what my TruRisk today looks like, but what are the key contributing factors, what I need to concentrate on. Obviously, in this case, looks like my TruRisk score is way below, is 360, is beyond my, below my risk appetite. Again, like the part of visualization is also to understand how my trend looks like. Remember what Sumedh talked about, risk is a risk, right? At the end of the day, your managers want to know if my risk was trending lower or higher. So now in this case, what I'm going to do is quickly look into all of those findings which I have, and this visualization would come in as a part of the ETM, and then later on, I would highly recommend have your VMDR view as the ETM view. Now looking into all of those findings, CVSS, how they got actually reprioritized based on the QDS, what we talked about, the way for you to prioritize them before attackers remember. Now in this case, at the end of the day, the vulnerabilities mattered with just 1.7%, which really mattered in this case. What I'm going to do is now get, like Mayuresh talked about it, right? Like first use of the AI is to provide you the insights in terms of whether you would have exposures through your external attack surface to attacker. So you would now get, every one of you would get the hacker's eye view or the external attack surface view of your environment to know if you have any unknown asset, which allows you to quickly just schedule, just provide your domain and subdomains, that's it. And the platform would take care of detecting, enumerating all of those findings, and look at that. As an analyst now, I know that my external attack surface, this is really important, especially in the light of your SAP vulnerability. I would quickly now get to know as an analyst where my risk has gone up. In this case, I get to see the trend. Why my risk has gone up is because I found some assets which were unknown and were part of my external attack surface. I'll quickly now know, this is the part what we saw from the slide, the toxic combinations of all of those findings coming together. In this case, as an analyst, I get to see that I have an asset with RDP port open, and I have the exploitable vulnerability. So now quickly wanting to see this particular combination, right, is went through all of those 208K assets, what you could be having. And the ones it prioritized, again, peeling the onion, why this particular toxic combination was prioritized for TruRisk. What these assets really mattered were these 42 assets. So in this case, what you could do is look into individual TruRisk of the same, and would be able to take care of some of those findings on the same. All right, could we shift back? Could we shift back to the slide deck? All right, there you go. Now, at the end of the day, like what you're doing on the infrastructure side as you're moving your assets into cloud, the question remains the same. Do I know my assets? Do I actually have my findings? But how can I actually prioritize and fix them? And this is the posture of today's cloud environment. If somebody asks you, what is my cloud risk looking like? This is the answer we typically get. Is the disconnected dashboard of these many accounts do I have? How many threads do I have? How many CSPM or misconfiguration findings do I have? And at the end of the day, what I get is I do have hundreds of thousands of findings, but I do have hundreds of attack paths at the end of the day. But somehow we're not getting the question how my TruRisk looks like based on all of these findings and attack paths. So Kunal will talk about in the afternoon how we would be able to showcase you the total cloud. Our CNAP capability helps our customers walk their journey from moving from their infrastructure from on-premise to cloud, and allows you to know your TruRisk of cloud by taking into consideration all of these attack paths. But not just the attack paths, but actually the TruRisk overlaid on attack paths help you prioritize from these hundreds of attack paths, the 10 which really would matter to you. And then the newest attack surface, everybody's talking about it, the AI, software, the LLMs, all your teams, the tech teams are building all of these SLMs and LLMs. The question becomes for the security teams, do we actually know where they are even running? So the same TruRisk capability and ability for you to find out where your LLMs are running, how you can actually manage their risk. With the newest capability on the platform, we are really excited to launch this and extend that on our EU and UK pods is the total AI capability. A single capability, again, extending the power of your risk operations center for you to know all of your AI workloads, what you do not know about today. But also getting the same risk context, what we talked about, if they are unknown to you. And then the research team has added 1,000+ detections to actually detect your vulnerabilities on your vector databases, on your AI workloads, addition to the vulnerabilities what you're scanning today, which are non-AI related. But the most important part, your auditor is going to ask, is your AI DORA ready, PCI ready? So it gives you now OWASP top 10 or LLM-based report to give it to your auditor how ready you are for using your AI. But the most important part, what we are excited about, is launching this point-and-shoot scanner, a patent-awaiting scanner, which you can just point it to your LLMs, and we would be able to provide you if those LLMs have any vulnerabilities, any findings. Would it actually spit out a free ticket if you're an airplane company? If you're a retail company, would it actually give a discount code or all of your SSNs from HR repository? So all of these findings, such as releasing of sensitive data, using sensitive data, if that can be spit out by your LLM by using this scanner. So this is available today. And then the other part, what we talked about, what was the second attack surface, right? The identity related. So that's the identity related security posture management, what we are talking about, what Sumit talked about, the BSPM. So this is actually the one which really matter for one of the biggest attack surface, what you would be able to drive as a part of your risk operations center. What would it allow you to do? The first thing first, you can leverage either Qualys sensor, which will connect to your Active Directory, Azure AD, etc., to bring in identity entitlements, user roles, and their access and permission. If you're already using your AD security solution, identity security solution, Okta or Ping, it can actually bring in the data from that as well. The second part is obviously the same TruRisk mechanism is extended for you to know what my true risk of identities look like, along with the attack paths which could go towards your AD. But the last part, again, is to provide you audit-ready report for your Active Directory for 50+ frameworks. And then again, same mechanism for your identity data. It is not just identity data in siloed, but for you to understand how this true risk would look like for the same asset on which you have vulnerabilities, could be having an unpatched or open port, as well as a user, which could be a part of DBA group. What could be the true risk of that asset which your DBA group person is using? If they have ransomware vulnerability and the port open, that probably is the biggest toxic combination, probably more important than some of your servers. So this all integrated as a part of our risk operations center, you would be able to drive. And at the end of the day, one of the parts, what is really exciting for us is the transformative UI and the visualization, what we talked about for you to drive your workflows from not just knowing your findings, but actually knowing your risk, communicating that to your teams. But this is the part we are really excited about, and something which is in the works. There's been a lot of confusion, right? Like, what is really AI for cybersecurity? There have not been a lot of LLMs or SLMs readily available to drive the cybersecurity use cases. How we are looking into it is essentially into 4 steps, right? First thing, instead of just all this noise, first thing first, if there is data analytics-based insight, which is essentially all these toxic combination I'm talking about, right? All of they will stay as the data analytics-driven insight. The second part, which will come in, a lot of you asked about it. Can I actually fire natural language query-related questions? There are a few smiles, 5 chuckles I do see. And would it actually result into running a QQL in the background? That's the second part, but it is still Gen AI, right? Then the future, what we would come out with, and we'll give a demo, the AI agents and the actual agentic AI for you to drive some of these operational workflows, which would actually provide you suggestions, which risk you need to remove, which risk you need to prioritize, but also how can I mitigate? How many of you are using patch management from Qualys today? Oh, plenty of you, okay? So now it will provide you a plan for you to drive your operational impact as well as your risk reduction together, would learn from it, and hopefully we'll be able to drive these workflows in a better manner. So just quickly showcase that, but to be honest, like I'm probably have 5 minutes before Matt start coming in. So really, sorry, Matt? Oh, I have 14, you said? Okay. All right. So I'm going to provide you that demo quickly. But before that, I do want to actually take you through the remediation part, which is a really important part. Because at the end of the day, like Sumesh said, we can't just take the selfies with these dashboards. Somebody needs to actually remediate. There have been a lot of ads, right? Who's the famous McLaren or Mercedes driver? Lewis Hamilton. You actually heard him say on the radio multiple times. Every time he yells at his pit crew is, okay, what do I do if you find the issue? Damn it, could you fix it? That's the thing he keeps on saying, is the same thing. The one what matters is actually the one if you actually able to fix this issue. So at the end of the day, I'm saying all of this, the remediation is a twofold problem. What we are seeing it as a lot of customers been using the integrated patch management. The one is sheer MTTR, right? This is the data where customers mean time to remediation looks like globally versus the EMEA and UK customers. Now, the problem from that is typical MTTR, like we talked about, like around about 30 days, and it takes for risky vulnerabilities to exploit what Kiran talked about, 18 odd days. So you're basically behind 12 odd days. This is the problem to fix. The second problem is at the bottom, that we are able to only fix 80% of vulnerabilities. And that's the velocity. We are not able to actually fix the whole tail of the vulnerability. That's the second problem. Now let's go into the first one, right? Our challenge, our goal is to actually reduce our MTTR to 18 odd days. Now this is where Qualys TruRisk Eliminate is now providing out-of-box plans for you to understand where your low-hanging fruits are. What are those low-hanging fruits? These are the low-hanging fruit what we typically see on an average, that there are 33% of vulnerabilities which you already added to your Microsoft Patch Tuesday patch job, just never got deployed. And 40% of those which are actually present on non-critical assets, risky vulnerability, somebody is telling you that there is a risk for a machine to go down. There is no issue for that machine go down if you actually patch Google Chrome or Adobe. These are 40% of vulnerabilities related to third party for you to actually reduce the tech debt, the vulnerability debt, and to bring that count down, your MTTR down. Now, let's look into that. This is the comparison of risky vulnerabilities for customers who are using Qualys integrated remediation management versus those which are not. And there is 40% difference. There's a reason why cause the integrated remediation, integrated patch management of Qualys, which is a part of TruRisk Eliminate, actually maps the risky prioritized vulnerabilities to the right remediation. Those who are using integrated TruRisk Eliminate or patch management of Qualys are remediating them 40% faster. And now if you tie that back to the first part what I talked about, with QDS you are prioritizing compared to CISA caves 40 days before, and with patch management, you're patching it much quicker. If you look into this data, this is the data what I wanted to concentrate on. All of these are CISA cave vulnerabilities. That means what is the outcome? 20% of Qualys's patch management customers are fixing the risky vulnerabilities before attackers are even prioritizing them. You're fixing it before it's a part of even CISA cave. And even after that, 50% of Qualys's TruRisk Eliminate customers patching vulnerabilities within 10 days of that getting added as a part of CISA cave catalog. So this is the second part what just wanted to concentrate on. So those who are doing it, they are actually the heroes. They would be able to go back and tell the management what is the use of this patching is you actually have prevented 8 out of those 10 top attacks of 2023 and 2024. That's been the outcome of Qualys's TruRisk Eliminate. And then we'll talk about the long tail of vulnerabilities, these 20% which are just not getting patched, right? The velocity what we are seeing is customers not able to patch it. And what's the resultant of that is typically having 4 number of really risky vulnerabilities. Now, what do we do about it, right? Like, it's not cause like you don't want to patch it because you don't find the machine necessarily. There's a reason for that. We understand. Either there is no patch because it's end of life vendor service, or could be a 0 day, or your businesses don't want to take downtime. Now, in that case, Qualys, like Sumedh talked about in the morning, we are extending the power of patch management with something called a TruRisk Eliminate. So our ability for you to now leverage mitigate functionality available for most of the CISA catalog, whether you can change the port, whether you can actually stop the service or the repository, for you to go ahead and mitigate if you cannot patch a vulnerability during that time. Again, this will allow you to reduce the risk of 100% of these risky vulnerabilities by using the combination, the buffet combination of patch, mitigate, and isolate. And then everybody's favorite topic when auditor comes in, they wouldn't care about all your nice things what you're doing, which attacks you're preventing, etc. Kind of, but they want basically the audit ready, some DORA report, PCI report, etc. For the same, in coming ones, we are extending the power of the platform, where you can bring in any framework you like. In this case, I'm taking an example of DORA. These are all articles which are technical article, technology article, and you would be able to now drive its outcome as audit-ready report for DORA. For all of those technology controls, cross-map from same findings, what you have collected from Qualys. So at the end of the day, like Anu has a session, so if you like your DORA readiness report, it is available with your TAM. So with that, we covered the aspect from asset to findings to prioritization to actually patching. And this is how you already have these capabilities for you to have your risk operations center ready from day one with natively leveraged Qualys capabilities. The same you are able to now extend for your ecosystems beyond Qualys as well. With that, I have a demo, Matt? No? All right, so with that, I'm going to wrap up my presentation. If anybody wants to see the agentic AI related demo, please let's meet the TAM at the booth so that we actually have a look at it, how we can provide the remediation plans to patch as well as mitigate some of these vulnerabilities. Awesome. I was right on time. Awesome. Thank you so much.